From Adela over on Facebook, I am almost afraid to send emails these days because of all the anti-spam regulations. How do you navigate ethical considerations in marketing, particularly concerning data privacy and transparency?
In terms of ethical considerations, I like to look beyond just what can I get away with or what's legal and would I want to receive this email?
Yeah.
Who is this serving? Sending cold emails, as long as they are CAN spam compliant, is technically legal, but your CRM can shut down your ability to send emails.
Yeah.
Your email service provider can shut down your ability to send emails. Google, Yahoo, all of the major email platforms, they get to decide if your behavior is acceptable to them. So even if you're like, well, technically I can send this, it's probably not going to work very well.
Hey, everybody. It is Dacia Coffee.
And I'm Daisy McCarty.
And welcome to the live version of the Marketing Blender show, where we're not prepped. So this literally is you guys driving. You've submitted the questions. You've told us what you want to hear. And yeah, now we just get put on the hot seat.
All right, I'm ready.
I am too. All right, Samaria, what have we got first?
All right, so our first question is going to be from, I hope I don't butcher it, Ankit. It is, I am just starting my career in marketing. What are the top mistakes I should avoid?
Well, and Kit, welcome to the chaos. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, man. You, if I'm not mistaken, just did a presentation to college students. How did that go?
Yes, I got to speak with an entrepreneur and innovator class at TCU.
So fun.
So they're not people who are majoring in marketing, but they're people that if they're bringing a new idea to market, they need to understand what it is, how it works. So we talked a lot about branding today. So it was really fascinating to watch people who have, the seeds of an idea and they're just figuring out how to communicate what the idea is, but not yet at the stage of communicating to the person who would actually buy it or fund it.
Yeah.
Or say yes to it at the end of the day.
The dreaming, we're starting to come into focus. Oh my gosh, so exciting.
So if I was talking to a college student who wants to go into marketing, I would say top mistake to avoid is specializing in something that's going to be obsolete in the next 5 years. So if you want to become a specialist in digital marketing, understand that that's not becoming a specialist in a specific platform. That's becoming a specialist in digital marketing as a whole. And you're always going to be learning new things. Everything that you're currently learning in college, by the time you graduate, it will have changed if you're looking at a specialization area. So think broadly about what you want to get good at learning and find something that you enjoy learning about all the time because you will never stop.
Oh, I like that one. Okay. It's funny because I have a hard time framing it like mistakes to avoid versus advice to give, but I think I did come up with a mistake to avoid. So I think the big one that comes to mind for me is wishing away writing or wishing away messaging. Yes, you will be using AI and you'll be using the tools, but Samaria is a perfect example in social media. And she does so much writing behind the scenes on other things. Our digital marketer is a talented writer. I don't think there's a single person on our team that gets to escape writing, but I do see that skill set kind of being pushed away where people are wishing that they don't do it, and it's not diving into it, and it is such an important one. Frequently we get asked, will you please do the content creation? Will you please do the writing? And so making sure that you're really talented and skilled communicator in that skill set of writing, not just speaking or not just thinking, I think that's probably the big one, is don't wish away the writing component.
And on the flip side of that, you have a lot of people in marketing who love the creative stuff and are terrified of analytics.
Oh, good one.
So whatever area you decide to specialize in, if you love doing social media content creation or videography or anything on the creative side, whether it's blogging or content writing, you need to understand what the analytics are that people are looking at that to measure success from, because otherwise you're going to be the kind of person that people say, oh yeah, they're a great marketer. They make really great stuff, but we haven't seen any results from it. So having an understanding of what results look like for the kind of creative thing that you do is going to help you actually secure your place in the market.
And I can't help it. I do have to flip it around to what advice would I give? And it would be just be a sponge. Just everything that you can possibly learn, volunteer for it if you've got the bandwidth to do it, whether it's video, whether it's writing, whether it's learning something in AI, whether it's learning HubSpot or Constant Contact or another automation system, just volunteer for it all. Get as much experience as you can and get hands-on, get in the weeds. You don't have to love all of it, but you won't know what you're really great at and maybe what some hidden strengths are of yours until you put yourself in experiences where it brings it out. And good Lord, there's so much great free advice out there. So go ahead and dive into that. Don't be scared. You can figure it out. There's so many tutorials, so many people that can mentor you, even mentor you virtually or through books or through online classes and YouTube videos. So I think that's the other one is and honestly, like all of our team members just have, just had such a wide range of specific experiences where they just brought so much to the table, even if it was outside of the role that they play now. So
I like that. Everything in marketing really is connected, so you can't over cross train.
No, exactly. All right, Samaria, what do we got next?
All right, so this is a question from LinkedIn. How will marketing handle the rapidly growing e-commerce trend? Marketers will have hard quotas, but most marketers are skilled for many communications, not one-to-one. That's from Bob.
E-commerce is its own massive beast. So, I am immediately thinking like tackling digital marketing because I'm a little worried there's some broken assumptions inside of this question about digital marketing because I don't know. And please feel free to call me out. I know you're not scared of that. But, when I think about digital marketing and I think about e-com, it is really a science. Yes, there's art and science too, but so much science around specific benchmarks, specific metrics that you're constantly tracking so many tools like heat mapping. And yeah, you have to remember that behind every single one of those numbers, that's a real human being. So I don't think that that's actually different than where we're at right now in regards to e-com marketing, because if the strategic paradigm is correct, you are treating those numbers like the actual living human beings that that are making a purchase that matters to their life. So I don't think marketers, especially e-com and digital marketers, should be scared of this. It shouldn't be a surprise to them. And you just got to get more strategic around resonance and personalization and paying attention to the different types of behavior, what type of buyers are there, and just get better and better at that.
So I had two things I wanted to say in response to this question. The first one is marketers should not be afraid of quotas. I know that's a sales team accountability term, but marketers should always be held accountable to metrics. Now they need to be held accountable for the appropriate metrics. So if you are in some kind of e-commerce play where there is actual sales involvement, then marketing needs to be clearly delineated in terms of who's responsible for which stage of the journey. But marketers shouldn't be afraid of saying, these are the metrics we need to hit. These are realistic based on what's happening in our market, what's happening with our competitors, what's happening, historically with our own trends, with our own buyers, et cetera. You just need to make sure that those quotas are, just like with your sales quotas, they should be based in the real world and not based on wishful thinking. The second thing I wanted to address is in the question, a shift was mentioned from one-to-many to one-to-one, and I think there's a very dangerous assumption in there that personalization is the same thing as one-to-one. It is absolutely not. Marketing should never be in the role of doing one-to-one communication in an e-commerce setting. However, they should be responsible for personalization. But how personalization actually works is you figure out what is your one-to-many for each segment. That's where marketing comes into play. So you're never going to be writing an individual message one-to-one for an individual customer in e-commerce because that is not scalable. You will be using automation, you will be using AI, and you will be using correct assumptions in order to create different types of customer journeys that seem like they're one-to-one because they're appropriately personalized.
Well said, because as you're talking, the only thing I can think of where e-com would absolutely be would move into one-to-one is if they have a live human being on a chat, and then it's a workflow that puts them in a one-to-one. But you're absolutely right. Personalization is not one-to-one. And then, if it is a live human being in that chat bot role or in that chat role, then that's the transition to sales, exactly like you said. So I think that's such a great point. And yes, don't be scared of quotas. Shine, show what you're worth. I love it. Really well said.
Absolutely.
All right, Samaria, what do we got?
Alrighty. So from Liam, how do you measure the success of a marketing campaign beyond traditional metrics like ROI or click-through rates?
Ooh, okay. You want to start? I heard you do the...
Sure. So when people say traditional metrics, first of all, ROI is often not a traditional metric. In fact, it's one that marketing often avoids having a conversation about. So when you're talking about marketing in general, there are lots of different kinds of marketing campaigns, and every single one is going to have its own desired outcomes. So the metrics that you're tracking should be aligned with what is the desired outcome and how do you measure and define ROI. So for some people, that means we see a link between the marketing activities and the revenue we're bringing in. For some, especially if it's around branding, they're looking at the impact of brand on profitability. For example, if we have a successful marketing campaign around our brand, can we raise our prices? That is not the same thing as did we bring in more leads or did we have more people clicking through to the website or more people converting on the website. So that's an example of a non-traditional metric, profitability, related to marketing campaigns around brand building.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you nailed it immediately. It's reverse engineering the number. So, for instance, instead of thinking, well, how do we track success? You need to name success and then say, how are we going to get there, right? So as an example, if you've got a revenue growth number, okay, what is represented in the customer upsells or retention? So what number is maybe more operational or client focused, and what percentage is net new? Or break it down divisionally, however you think about your revenue streams in your company. But then next say, okay, what's our average deal size? All right, now how many proposals do we have to write in order to get that? So now you're talking win-loss ratio. Now you keep backing it up. How many discovery meetings do we need to have to get to that many proposals? Okay, now we have a real lead gen, sales qualified lead gen number, and we just keep backing it up. And even if you don't know yours, there are so many benchmarks for your industry that you can Google. And so literally you should be building the ROI number and the ROI metrics backwards based on the things that you should be tracking. It's not the tail wagging the dog, which is not surprising. I don't mean to be insulting. It's just really how marketing has kind of come up. And now we're finally seeing that convergence between sales and marketing. So that's one of the big things. Now, the other thing that Daisy and I talk about a lot, and that all of us do here at Blender, is that you're not just building a system, you're also building an ecosystem. So it's not just what's the best ROI out of a single specific tactic or a single lead source. A really healthy environment, a healthy ecosystem is multiple lead sources. And oftentimes what we've seen when we turn one off or turn one on is you see the overall system expand or contract, and that's how you know the role that it's playing. So this is a really mature point of view when you're starting, when you've been doing a lot of marketing and now you're really starting to test the importance of individual tactics or individual platforms. You're turning those on and off, if you will. But it's the overall where eventually you're getting to a client acquisition cost. How much money do we have to spend to land a client? And so then that's your ultimate goal of an ROI benchmark. And then you simply say, how can we get more squeeze out of this lemon, right? And then also, though, you can watch trends happening in the environment and how that's impacting. So I think there's just a lot of value. But client acquisition cost is not, you don't come to that overnight. But for me, that's one of the goals.
I have one more non-traditional metric, and this comes down to marketing and sales alignment, because you can only track this if you're looking at what's happening in the sales cycle. But we have a client that we did complete repositioning for their brand for about a year and a half ago. And now their target market, when they encounter a new prospect, their prospects are using the language that we inserted into their industry. That's a really good feeling. It means that you actually have made an impact with your brand position, and people recognize, resonate with, and repeat the language that you are using to describe your brand, your concept, or your solution.
Oh, such a good one. And that actually leads me to another non-traditional one. And it's referral or referral source touches. And I don't mean paid referrer marketing. I mean true, just authentic refers. Are you nurturing them on purpose? Are you loving in them on purpose? Is there a system behind your outreach and the size of that network and the value that you're bringing? There's some really interesting, both quantified and qualitative, metrics inside if that's how your business works. And especially in healthcare environments or consulting environments, that's a really big one. And I think people don't realize that they can dial that in and be more intentional. And that's not really just serendipity.
That's true. That was a good question.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so we're headed back over to LinkedIn with another question from Bob. What skill sets will marketers need to have 3 to 5 years from now?
I'm loving Bob. We're sending him a book if he wants. I'm like, I love questions. Okay, skill sets 3 to 5 years from now. Ooh. Okay, well, obviously, I'm going to go back to you always have to be a skilled communicator. That doesn't go away. Thinking strategically about your market and about human beings doesn't go away. I think the faster the pace of change and technology goes, the more rooted in strategic decision-making and rationale you have to be. So because you're going to have to be able to balance all of these things are being thrown at you and interpret that data much faster. And you can't do that unless you have solid strategic thinking. But I'm a little avoiding the question.
So I was actually going to say strategy is the number one skill, the ability to build strategy. And I'm going to say the ability to build a marketing strategy is the number one skill set you need because it will not become obsolete no matter what happens with AI. AI cannot build actual marketing strategies. It's so far from being able to do that 10, 15 years from now, you still don't need to worry about AI taking that job. So if you want to secure your job and you want to be more valuable within whatever marketing area of specialization you have, you need to learn how to build strategies.
Agreed. I think the other one, and we mentioned this earlier, is you can't avoid the numbers. Daisy was completely right when she addressed this earlier, and I think that's just going to continue to be more and more important because strategy and then watching did our assumptions play out how we thought it would be. And again, remembering that those numbers are real human beings on the other side of those digits, that's really, really important. But even if analysis or analytical thinking or numbers is not natural to you, that's okay, but you don't get to abdicate responsibility. That's not natural to me. There's a period in my career where I really did decide to sit in the numbers, ask myself the questions, ask the experts what I thought were the dumb questions, and really start to develop my own point of view and comfort level around those numbers so that then I could bring that into my repertoire. And it was an absolute game changer. And interestingly for me, and I think other people will say this as well, if there's an aspect of this that doesn't come naturally, sometimes the questions that you ask are the game changer, right? It is the thing where you can develop specific value because now you know how to teach it because this didn't come naturally to you. Or now you know how to, ask different questions that maybe are not the norm. So those are, I always just go back to the fundamentals, and that's the other one.
I do have one more. I know I trash talk AI a lot, but seriously, you need to develop your marketing skills around how to use AI because I guarantee you employers are going to be looking for that. They don't know what it means yet. They don't know what they want you to be able to do with AI. But if you can show that you are able to think about new ways to use that to streamline processes, to generate content, et cetera, that's going to put you at the top of the heap.
Absolutely. I mean, we get so excited when any of our team members are like, hey guys, I tried this new thing, or let's test this out. I mean, that's very exciting. And I don't care who or where that idea came from, but just growing our group knowledge around what's possible out there. And I love seeing experimentation around, oh, I tried this and I tested this and what if? Oh my gosh, absolutely. At the Marketing Blender, we have fractional CMOs and outsourced marketing teams to drive your success. The two most common problems that we are approached about is how do we break revenue plateaus and accelerate success, or how do we attribute marketing to revenue impact? And the answer is that we build a system, because your marketing should be driving revenue, it should be driving your reputation, and it should be driving resilience. If you want to learn more, check out themarketingblender.com.
Bob is back with another question. You mentioned marketing and sales alignment. How are they not aligned right now?
That's its own show.
Insert soapbox. Go. Okay, I'm going to actually start at a really tactical place. And so let's assume that you have a CRM in place, it's some sort of marketing technology. What's the definition of a sales qualified lead? What's the definition of a marketing qualified lead? And what are the actions that happen when different types of leads come in? Who is responsible? What do you do? What deserves a phone call? Just those basics, because what we see a lot with clients, especially clients that have a higher amount of data or higher like volume of calls or larger audience, we see marketing going, yeah, but it's working. We've got tons of traffic to the website. We've got tons of downloads. We've got tons of form fills. We have an email list that was legitimately inbound built that's over 1 million people, yada, yada, yada. And sales is like, so what? I don't have any meetings. And so this is so common, because there is just a huge chasm between what marketing's doing and what sales wants, and clarifying what that handoff is. And really the paradigm shift when I'm teaching is about, it's not about your sales cycle, it's about the buyer's journey. And they don't give a rat's butt. You can always tell when it's live. Charlie cuts all this out for me, but they do not care at all, if it's marketing and personal research that they came across, or if it's a salesperson that educated them or created progress. And so really aligning around, how does a person like to buy? How do they need to be progressed to make a great decision? That's the big one, where you can solve so many problems with a little bit of logic and a whole lot of unity instead of finger pointing.
I have a couple that I'd like to address, because you know me, brand messaging queen. I talk brand messaging all the time. I build so many playbooks for our clients, and it's astonishing how often the marketing message changes when it shifts over to sales.
Yeah.
And salespeople, bless their hearts, they love to try new things, and they'll come up with some folksy analogy that worked with one client, so they think now everybody needs to hear the same thing. The messaging for the organization needs to be documented, it needs to be agreed upon, and it needs to be executed on consistently at every stage of the buyer journey, to your point. So our brand messaging playbooks, they cover everything from pre-awareness all the way through closing deals.
Yes.
It's not, this is the marketing messaging and then sales does whatever they want. No, it needs to be something that sales can test and bring feedback, and they're like, man, this point is just not resonating, or this mattered to people 2 years ago and it doesn't now. We need the feedback so we can evolve the messaging, but it can't just be a free-for-all. There has to be structure, because otherwise we can't tell what's working and we can't improve it. The other thing that I would say is we sometimes see a clash between what marketing has been told is important and what the sales team is being incentivized toward.
Oh, good one.
So I had
incentive programs,
yeah,
good one.
I had a conversation with a prospect. I ended up declining them as a client because I was like, I can't help you. I can't solve the problem that you have. And it was like two co-founders, and one of the co-founders came to me, and he was in charge of one division of the business, and the other co-founder was in charge of the other division. And he was talking about the struggle that he was having. He wanted to sell the sales team to sell more of one particular type of deal, because it was going to be, a higher profit margin, more recurring revenue, et cetera. So he was talking to me about, how do I build messaging that will help them sell more of the thing that I want them to sell? And I had to ask, which kind of deal gets your salespeople more money in their pocket? And he was like, well, yeah, they're all selling this other kind of deal because that's what they're being incentivized to do. And I was like, I can't solve that with a different message. It doesn't matter what I put in a playbook and you tell your people to use in their sales process. Salespeople are smart. They know how to maximize their time and maximize their financial reward. So they're going to continue selling the thing that gives them the best financial outlook. So that's an area where I see often there's a very big gap between what marketing is trying to accomplish for the brand and for the business versus what the sales team is doing.
Oh gosh, I just have so much to say about this one. I'm going to try to rein it in a little bit, but I completely agree. That thing that you said about documentation, I just want to reiterate again, it's not real if it's not documented. And in my book, I talk about sales is reactive and marketing is proactive. Now, I don't mean that from a judgment standpoint. I know we bring a lot of connotations with those meanings, but I mean sales is literally in front of live human beings reacting to their objections, their concerns, their questions, and that's healthy and appropriate, and they're being a guide for that person in real time. Marketing can't be that. Can't be that. So marketing has to take some intake, some solid, agreed upon, documented decision-making criteria. Who are we targeting? Why the heck are they even interested in our product? Meaning, what problem do they have? What's triggering their attention? And then we have to anticipate what's happening in their real world that will make them go, you know what? I want to talk to these guys. And what will keep them engaged and convert interest into inquiry and inquiry into action and involvement and engagement and eventually a close. So there's just so much about that and knowing your role in that total buyer's journey. So just coming full circle there again, but you're so right. And I love that you're talking about compensation because all of the decisions, like once they're written down, you get so much clarity on what should we be incentivizing or what should we be spending money on, where should we be going, what should we be turning on or off. And a lot of times we just see marketing departments minimized to a sales support environment. So you've got these super brilliant people that have all these ideas, but instead they're running around doing a lot of admin, and then everybody's frustrated and they don't know why marketing's not working. But it's because nobody's expanded to think, okay, what's the real role of marketing in regards to filling a sales pipeline?
Yes, and we often talk about the fact that marketing and sales, it shouldn't be sales running marketing.
Oh,
That is not appropriate alignment.
agreed. Agreed. So, Daisy's talking about this, and I wanted to share a couple different stories. We worked with a large international food company, and what would happen over and over and over again is that because sales was over marketing, they would literally steal marketing's budget, especially brand building budget and PR budget and that top of the funnel expansion that's supposed to grease the wheels in the future and create demand generation. They would steal that and give it to coupons or give it to their distributors or give it to sales enablement projects. And then they were surprised when it was always hard to keep filling the sales pipeline or getting it bigger, but they weren't investing in any of that. And I've also seen sales, unfortunately, and I have a background in sales, so like this is not calling people out because I was there, but I also see sales have that recency bias where the last conversation they had, the last deal they lost or the last deal they won defines strategy. Like they think, oh my gosh, I just figured it out. And it's hard to get out of that. No, that might only be one person, one deal, one company, not one big trend that we need to capitalize on. But when sales is in charge, we have a tendency to see sales dumping all of their good ideas on marketing and not calming down and backing out and saying, okay, is this really worthy of spending money because we didn't pre-decide what was going to work and what was going to fill the pipeline. So yeah, thank you for that one. I know that's going to make a whole bunch of people mad, but good conversation to have.
Yes. Remember, salespeople, marketing just wants to help you.
Yes.
That's all we want. We just want to help you.
We want you to hit your goal. Make your money, people.
Alrighty. So another question from LinkedIn from Dan is going to be building onto the targeting conversation. What's the best way to work with sales and product and finance and leadership to create an ideal client profile?
Oh, whiteboards, baby. Oh my goodness. Lots of really great questions. I always advocate for having a facilitator. And, obviously that's going to sound like we're just promoting ourselves, but here's why. A lot of times a talented head of marketing can facilitate, or someone else that's talented in that way inside. But what it does is it puts them across the table, gathering information from the rest of the team instead of holding their own space with the team and adding their point of view. So, that's a big one. But I think getting everybody around the table and going through structured questions, psychographic questions, you guys, around who are these as human beings. And I've gotten a lot of questions about this recently. And we got the nicest compliment the other day where we are working with a new client and they were like, we've built 11 different buyer personas over the year. And I'm like, why didn't you share those with us? Like, holy cow, and all of a sudden I have that moment of, oh gosh. Yeah, exactly. And they go, we didn't realize this is what it was supposed to be.
Right.
And so in hindsight being 2020, they were so right not to have shared that with us. I'm not quite sure why they didn't, but I'm glad for it. But they were so surprised how deep we got into motivations and personality and behaviors and analyzing the commonality of their most profitable clients. So, but it was having people from totally different points of view. So we had customer service, we had sales, we had the head of sales over their distributed sales force, so their distributors. I mean, we had operations in there, we had finance in there because he'd been in the industry for a long time. So it was not traditional marketing people or sales people. I mean, it was a really well-rounded group that had been in the industry and knew the humans that they sell to for a long, long time.
I really like this question because it is pointing in the direction of doing this correctly, which is it doesn't just get to be marketing and sales having the conversation about who you're selling to. Bringing in your CFO, for example, you need to understand which clients are most profitable, not just which ones you think are most likely to buy or which ones you like the best, but which ones are going to help grow the health of the company. On the operations side, you need to understand who you can actually serve and who you can scale serving. Because if you're really good at marketing and sales and you're just bringing in new client after new client, you don't want to break the operations side and break the brand experience that's then going to have a bad impact on your ability to serve your next set of people. I would absolutely say having an outside facilitator who does not know your target market and who will not make assumptions and who will say the unsaid and who will ask deeper questions than you've been asked before.
Yeah,
very, very helpful. And also talk to your customers. They need to be at the table as well. Whether that's doing voice of the customer interviews as we usually do with our clients. We don't want to just hear what our clients think their customers care about. We want to hear directly from their customers what they actually care about and the language that they use.
The language, because it's not how we interpret their words. It's the exact words that matter. And I don't think people realize that. If people are explaining a problem in their point of view and then we translate, we miss this huge opportunity to say, we specialize in you, we get it. Because when you mirror, you're firing up those mirror neurons. And that is a huge attention getter and a belief builder, trust builder for people to say, wow, these guys really do understand me. There's a couple other, we built based together really because the questions are exhaustive and it was all the work you and I did over the years in the buyer persona chapter. But one of my favorite questions that I stole from you a long time ago was, how should the world be? So what are people fighting for? What are they fighting against? And that philosophical dissonance between what's happening right now and what it should be, oh my gosh, brings out so much resonance. So the quality of the questions leads to the quality of the answers and the output. So really thoughtful questions. Another one that people always laugh about, but I bring it up in a lot of my talks, is what kind of car do they drive? And it's because a car is an identity choice. If it was I get from point A to point B choice, we'd all drive the same car in the same color and it wouldn't matter, but we don't. And even if somebody is buying a sports car, there are a dozen different reasons why people buy sports cars. And so it's really communicating how that person sees the world, how they see themselves, how they make decisions, because everywhere you go, there you are, right? So you bring those tendencies to everything that you purchase. And so kind of uncovering some of those really gets that creativity in a group setting going. The final one I wanted to bring up is from an oldie but a goodie, Blue Ocean, that wonderful book. There is something in that book called a buyer utility map. So especially when you're talking about a multi-point of view group, ops, sales, marketing, leadership, by taking that map, you can go through what are the different things in your industry that might be important to your buyers, and then what's the lifetime experience that they have, and where are their irritations, right? Are they irritated when they purchase? Or is there a problem or something when they're being onboarded and when they install it? Are there upgrades or change management things that need to be addressed? When there's disposal or when it's being sunsetted, what happens? And I love this. I've seen so many neat things when we get to do this work with clients, because so often everybody thinks the word innovation is, oh, AI or big technology. Amazing game-changing innovation comes from being so smart about what your market needs and what those human beings struggle with and the thing that you can give. And a lot of times they're low cost. So I remember this one, we were working with a manufacturer in aerospace, and they realized that a lot of the receiving departments for their particular piece on the aircraft were a mess. And literally, because of these buyer persona exercises, they ended up changing the color of their loading dock, what do you call them, pallets, in order to make it easier. And you would not believe the wildfire of, we only order this because it makes it so much easier. We can find these components so much easier. And I mean, it was such a low cost, amazing innovation that made them so sticky in a really commoditized environment. And it was like, oh, so juicy, right? But marketing wouldn't have come up with that. Sales wouldn't have come up with that. But by having the ops guys in there and really seeing these companies filled with human beings that have real problems, oh, so good.
Alrighty, so Bob has another question, and his question is, does marketing drive demand generation, or does it primarily measure existing demand? And that question is for B2B, not B2C.
We're about to do an episode on B2B demand
I'm
gen.
like, are you a spy, Bob? Like, I know you can't read what's on this paper.
So the question is, are you just measuring what demand is out there, or are you driving demand? Now, first of all, you do need to start with measuring what's out there, because then you know what level of demand gen is needed. But absolutely, if there is not high existing demand for your product or service where you can just jump straight into lead generation, you absolutely do need to be doing demand generation for the product or service. Now, even if there's demand already existing in the market for a product or service like yours, if it's not specifically demand for your brand, then there's still a demand generation play. And yes, this is the domain of marketing. Marketing has to make sure that there's enough water out there, and if there's not, they better drum up some rain so that when you start trying to fill that funnel, there's something to go into it.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So, what I was writing down is measuring or watching who you're reaching. So if the new clients or the people coming in, your inquiries are still relatively in a similar network, a similar vein, that's really important. Also watching your lead sources, are certain ones ramping up, then that's a good way to identify if demand generation is working versus it's just more of the current demand. So kind of watching the changes in where you're getting inquiry, where you're getting attention, where you're getting traffic from. So any of those different metrics. And then the other one, why I really always want to advocate for that is two things. Number one, are we getting more direct traffic? Like, are people Googling your name? So it's interesting because we want to see that go down when we're first implementing new marketing things where, in order to make sure that we're getting more strangers in. But then if we're really employing demand gen, we want to see direct inquiry, direct traffic where they're calling you. It's not from a Google ad. It's not from a specific trackable source. We want to see that really going up where they're Googling your name. And we want to see those bigger numbers. And then the other thing I like about this question is that there's a number of clients, especially here in Texas, where they have the wind at their back. And so they're growing, but not necessarily because they're awesome. It's because the demand out there is so big that the market doesn't even have, there's not even enough capacity to fill the demand. And so even just asking this question and tracking what's happening, and sometimes just asking that question, what's responsible for this is really important. And hey, we love when the wind is at our back. Like, we will take it all day long, but we do want to make sure that we know when that's true, so that when those trends that are buoying everybody are starting to calm down, that you're ready and you're implementing new things to keep that going while your competitors are fat and happy and ignoring the fact that the trends and the winds of change are blowing.
And I would like to jump back in right for a moment into that direct traffic trend. Almost always when we switch on paid SEO and when we've got organic SEO going well, we see direct traffic start to rise as well.
Yeah.
So don't assume you can just, we've got plenty of direct traffic, let's turn off all of our paid stuff. No. One of the reasons that, especially in the B2B space, that you're going to see an increase in direct traffic is when people see your ads and they see your content. B2B buyers are suspicious.
Yeah.
They're so skeptical. They will not click on your ad, but they will go look up your company.
I'm one of those.
Yes, exactly, because they want to have their own buyer journey. They don't want to go through whatever, gated thing that you've created for them. They want to go figure out who you are, and then they decide that they want to reach out. Just
agreed.
A little tip on the B2B
Love
side.
that one.
You're going to definitely see that behavior.
Yes.
All right, sorry guys, had to fix my glasses. All right, from Adela over on Facebook, I am almost afraid to send emails these days because of all the anti-spam regulations. How do you navigate ethical considerations in marketing, particularly concerning data privacy and transparency?
Oh, God, I hate cold email. Like purchase lists. We're just spamming people. It is illegal. It constantly goes on. So I'm always about building a healthy list, rewarming old leads, expanding your network, and doing it the good old-fashioned traditional way. And one of the reasons I advocate for this is that everybody has been trained that email is such a low producing type of tactic that you can only expect to get somewhere between 10 to 15% open rates. Total garbage. If you have great emails and you're really thinking about the humans receiving those emails, you can get amazing open rates on a small list. Like one of our clients in digital transformation, they have, I mean, it kind of made me nervous when we first started, to be honest. I mean, they were giving us lists that were only 50 people. I'm like, okay, here we go. We were generating 30% like inquiries from a tiny little list like this. I mean, it was just astonishing, but it was because the messaging was exactly suited to exactly who these people were, and we knew what they were struggling with, and we spoke directly to them. So there was enough trust and brand recognition where we were allowed in their inbox. And then because the messaging is exactly what they were thinking, they were curious enough to open it and it felt safe. And so it was astonishingly good, but it was because there was a lot of thoughtfulness, a lot of strategy going into that kind of email.
Sure. So I'd like to clarify one thing really quick. Sending cold emails, as long as they are CAN spam compliant, is technically legal, but your CRM can shut down your ability to send emails.
Yeah.
Your email service provider can shut down your ability to send emails. Google, Yahoo, all of the major email platforms, they get to decide if your behavior is acceptable to them. So even if you're like, well, technically I can send this, it's probably not going to work very well. And in terms of ethical considerations, I like to look beyond just what can I get away with or what's legal, and would I want to receive this email?
Yeah.
Who is this serving? As a brand, am I trying to serve my brand or am I trying to serve my customers? I can tell you that there are people that I get emails from every 48 hours. And I don't read all the emails, but I will not unsubscribe because I know that once a month or so, something's coming through that I absolutely 100% will open. I will watch. I will sign up. I will go on the webinar because it's just that good. So you want to be that kind of company and that kind of brand where when you're sending email to people, they don't dare hit unsubscribe because there is so much gold in what you're offering to them. I would say for most of my clients, when we're looking at, transparency, people need to remember how they got on your email list. They're a lot less likely to have an issue with it if they're like, oh, that was at that trade show, or I signed up and I got this amazing tool from their website. So we're seeing more and more people when they're filling out, for example, lead magnet forms, if they're not really into the thing, there are more and more plugins that people are using that create just fake email addresses. And so your customers are going to tell you by their behavior if they're okay with giving you an email address and if they're enjoying receiving your emails. So thinking about it from their perspective in terms of what they're receiving and what value they're getting from it versus I just want to communicate with my customers or with my prospects and I want them to do this thing. Are you helping them make progress with the emails that you're sending them? Now, you do need to stay on top of all of the record changes, DKIM, and all the acronym stuff. Please work with someone who specializes in making sure your emails remain deliverable, and recognize that you're not going to have 100%. And I have one client who's very concerned because one company that they were in the middle of talks with, suddenly all of their emails from their domain started going into like hitting the firewall for some reason. And they're like, how can I make sure this never happens again? Can't.
No.
Can't do that. Sorry. You have to, if you're playing the email game, you have to acknowledge that sometimes things are not going to work out the way that you want them to. Occasionally, things are going to get blocked. So you need to be balancing, should you be in your customers' email inboxes twice a week, or should it really be like once a month just so they remember who you are? And then, only send out stuff when it's really important. Also make sure you have multiple channels to reach your customers and your prospects. Email shouldn't be the only thing that you're doing. And the more touch points you have with those people, the more likely they are to open your emails because they recognize you from their social media feed. And they saw your display or retargeting ads following them. And they're like, oh yeah, this is that company that does this thing. And I'm actually interested in what they have to say.
Oh, well said. I mean, their emails are not about them. It's about the customers that are receiving it. So I absolutely love that. And I am going to go ahead and give a shout out. So any small businesses listening, shout out to NerdWorks. They have an amazing, ridiculously inexpensive service to help you keep up with the records and the DKIM and all of this type of stuff. Love these guys. They're the ones that help us. So anyways, just had to do that shout out because it's been ridiculously helpful.
Yes. Please do remain aware of the changes and regulations, but don't think you are on your own when it comes to implementing the latest best practices.
Yep, absolutely.
So going back to the first question almost from Mo over on Facebook, what advice would you give to to aspiring marketers looking to make an impact in the industry?
Looking to make an impact. Wow.
I know. Okay, so where do I start? So you are going to get so tired of hearing us say this, and I don't care. Having this human-centered, others first paradigm is an absolute game changer. Being good is good for business. And so when you are thinking of all the ways that you can bring value, whether it's through email, whether it's through social media, whether it's through internal marketing to employees or anything like that, really thinking, what do they care about and how do I write and think and cater to them and talk to them about them. It's just such a rare thing in this really noisy world. Really good for your career because it's way, 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 way more effective. But then also it's inspiring when you do something really, really good, when you're writing something that comes from a place of integrity and heart, it actually makes everyone else feel good. Like we've seen this with a number of our clients where when we took over their social media, shout out Samaria Boyd, I mean, it literally becomes like a call of, like a call to action, a call of arms for our clients where, their employees are like, yeah, that is us. That is what we stand for. I mean, it's just so beautiful when a brand and when your marketing can honor the work of the people that it represents. So that's always where I start. I know that's very big picture, but it's not small. It's so, so significant. So where do you go when you hear the word impact?
So specifically, the question is around making an impact on the marketing industry. And you and I share a very common vision for what should be different about marketing.
Yeah.
So, and that's obviously covered in your book, Corporate Caffeine. But I would say the three areas, number one, you talked about already was customer-centric, customer first. It has to be about the humans. The second one is around marketing should deliver ROI. Don't compromise on that. Be the champion.
Yes.
Be the one that's proactively saying, No, we have to make sure that marketing is accountable for results. They need to be the right results. They need to be results that matter, and we need to be tracking that. And the third one is around marketing and sales alignment. If you want to make the biggest impact in the marketing field, break down that wall between marketing and sales. Get the communication working, get the CRM working, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And focus. And again, all of those things are about human impact.
Yep.
Marketing and sales, there's no reason that we shouldn't be working hand in hand with each other.
Exactly. And, not knowing like where Mo is in their career or their giftings, don't be scared of your own creativity and what you have to bring. And so going big, thinking, oh my gosh, this would delight our clients, or this would shock the market, or this would be so fun, cool, viral, whatever. But again, it goes back to that human first, because the reason things do go viral, or the reason they are astonishing, is because it is captivating that human being. Do you remember that woman a number of years ago where she did all the fonts in like food and pasta and grains? Did you ever see that?
I don't think so.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to pull it. I'll have to share some of these images on our social media. But I mean, like as an example, she would do like the Coca-Cola logo, but in little tiny bits, and she would just sit there for hours. And so then it would be a time lapse of this amazing thing. And then they went crazy for about a year or two. She was everywhere, and it was so fun. And I just really loved the craftsmanship and, like her courage and her artistry. And there was something just so human and beautiful about it. And, obviously it made a mark on me for, I don't even know why. I just really loved it.
I think the beautiful thing about that is we talk a lot about customer centric, but there is a place if you want to make an impact as a marketer for your own self-expression, for your own creative genius.
Yeah.
Don't let the man wear you down.
Exactly.
Don't let it be ground out of you by the endless to-do list. If you want to make an impact, you have to maintain that excitement, enthusiasm.
Oh, good one. I love that. All right. Do we have more? Yes. Holy cow. This is exciting.
From James, how important is personalization and customization in today's marketing efforts, and how do you implement this?
Totally critical.
It is. I would say that we just talked about email marketing. If you're not segmenting your list and you have more than 50 people on it,
exactly,
then you're missing the boat with your ability to drive the types of actions that are going to help people make progress on their buyer journey. So personalization, obviously tokens to insert first name, last name, that's like the most basic level. And please don't ever just, mess that little script up so it says, hi, first name. That's super embarrassing for all marketers forever and ever.
Yes.
But personalization, what does personalization actually mean for your customers? There are some segments of the market and some buying processes where personalization is really about, are you making the right suggestions at the right time? And that's where like a suggestion engine built into your website, especially if you're in the e-commerce space, makes a lot of sense, because it's like, oh, people who buy this, usually they have a need for this and this too, or they have an interest in this or this too. So it's about, personalization should be about removing the personal friction that type of individual has. And if it's in marketing, it needs to be a one-to-many, but it's one-to-many in clusters. So in terms of implementation, it really, the technology that you use to structure that is going to vary based on what platform you're using, what is the buying process like. But the personalization always starts with segmenting your personas into their own clusters.
Agreed. And that segmentation component, I want to jump on this in like a slightly different direction too. If you're really thinking about segmenting your buyer personas, your customer profiles, I'll give you an interesting, weird little statistic. I saw a graph the other day, so I'll have to pull it and validate it. But in certain industries, only about 30 to 40% of their customers are even profitable. Why are you in business if you're losing money on that large of a group of people? And so this is really, really important. A lot of people are very scared. They'll just sell to whoever they want. But you know what? There are certain customers that are joy stealers and profit killers, just saying. And that's probably happening in certain areas. And so when we are talking about buyer personas, we are not talking about fluff. Yes, we're talking about this human human paradigm shift, and we are talking about marketing return on investment. But honestly, we are also talking about financial stability and profitability and building a really amazing business model. And so when you get into segmentation or personalization, for me, it's that we've pre-decided the clients that make us successful because we make them successful. And so there's so much depth here that I want to make sure that people don't miss out on, because they're asking the right questions, but then there's root things underneath these approaches that we're talking about that are just, business rich, valuation rich, so important.
Yes, definitely. You should focus your personalization efforts on the people who are driving the most profit for your business.
That's right.
Not all of them are like, oh, we need to have something for everybody. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
Never, ever, ever.
Never.
It should be you put your best innovation, your best digital transformation, and your best customization efforts toward delighting, engaging, and keeping your best customers.
Exactly.
Alrighty. Next question is from Tasha. I run a small boutique and I'm doing all of my social media takes a lot of time. How much time should I focus on creating new content, and how much can I reuse what I have?
Can we make Samaria answer this question?
Yes, we can.
All right. Well,
All right.
Samaria, we're going to give you a second to think, because you are going to weigh in on this one, my friend. Well, Daisy, what do you think?
So she's specifically talking about running a boutique, which means she has a lot of photography and hopefully some videography to work with as well. I would say if you have a robust asset library and you're continually bringing in new people into your ecosystem who haven't seen your old stuff, maybe 80-20, keep reusing your old stuff in new ways and focus that 20% on that segment of your audience is who's seen your old stuff, or you're creating new delight or new areas of interest. But I'm a big fan of reusing stuff over and over on social media in different ways. This should be video. This can be like a carousel deck that people can go through. This can have a voiceover on it. You don't have to be creating brand new stuff all the time. Your target market doesn't have the bandwidth to receive all new stuff all the time. Sometimes they just need to be reminded, oh yeah, that was that cute, jump change video where they showed the two different dresses, and they'll watch the same thing again just because they enjoyed it the first time. And you're not going to know if they like specific pieces of content if they only see it one time, or only a portion of your audience sees it one time, and then it's gone forever.
All right, Samaria, before I start diving in, I want to hear from you.
I actually really agree with Daisy. I think that if it's working, reposting is always a good idea, because you can use things in so many different ways. Because now we have, Reels, we have TikTok, we have the carousel posting on both LinkedIn and Instagram, you have Facebook. So there's just a lot of different ways for you to reuse these things. And with the free editing tools that pretty much exist all over the internet, I would just say it's a lot easier to kind of repurpose things. So like whether that's an image, you can make those little fun, like you mentioned, jump cut videos, or you can cut them out and make them move around, do weird stuff. People like weird stuff on the internet. So just kind of think about how you can, when you're reusing content, think about how you can give it a new life. So I would say, I think the 80-20 is a pretty good ratio. But I also would like to say too, don't be afraid to create new content, because new stuff is always fun. And just to have fun and be crazy, because that's what the world likes. So
Our quotable moment: people like weird stuff on the internet.
Yes.
Very true. You didn't even mention Reddit. That's where the really weird stuff happens.
My God, I love Reddit.
I think if you go too far down the rabbit hole on YouTube, even TikTok, you'll find even weirder people.
So true. So a couple things I want to add to that. It totally depends on her personality and her time availability, but time blocking, right? So if she's thinking, I have to spend 30 minutes a day or an hour a day or 2 hours a day, what about one whole day a month? Like if that's possible, where you're just cranking out tons of amazing, cool creative that then can be repurposed, and maybe you can get even more juice because you were planning and collecting ideas and that kind of thing. So I think thinking differently. I think also I see small business owners and boutique owners overthink their content. Holiday content, I'm sure she's already doing that, but there's so many fun things that are light lifts that you can do or that you can reshare from other, other platforms or your favorite people. Plan. Have a plan. Like, so when you see it, like in the live environment where you're like, oh my gosh, I got to grab this. And then harvest your waste. I know this one sounds really weird, but there's downtime in boutiques. And so, are your associates, being a part of this? A lot of them are younger, and so they're going to have great ideas. And so this might be really fun for them to be doing some of those, transformation, those jump change videos and all of this other stuff. So, when there's wasted time or wasted whatever, where can you have some fun with that? To your point about going ahead, and creating new content, what Samaria was saying. So I think there's some other places, there's typically hidden pockets that you can grab amazing content from that doesn't have to be over the top production value or an hour long or something like that. So I know that time management's tricky.
It is
tricky.
But again, don't lose the joy.
No, I know social media should be so cool. It's the expression of everything that she's built. So, repurposing. I saw one. I hardly ever save posts unless they're amazing. And I saw one boutique one the other day that was so good. And what she did was she did this video where it was like dressing versus styling. And she just cut together tons of her old posts. And I saved it because it was so good. I was like, wow. But it was all her best tips in a single video. And even though I'd seen them before, I was like, yep, save.
Right.
I don't have that skill, so I need to steal her ideas. So it was cool.
I was going to say, I think my favorite kind of video from boutiques are the ones where it's like casual versus like formal, and like the different ways that you can take like even a casual piece and make it formal, or a formal piece and make it casual. I love seeing those. So I guess that's a content idea.
Yes. Also repurpose what your competitors are doing.
Amen,
Put
sister.
your own twist on it.
Yes.
You know what's performing well because it's the stuff that's everywhere.
Exactly. So, all right. Do we have any more questions? How are we doing?
So it's about time for us to wrap up, and we do not have any more questions from what I can see.
All right. Any final thoughts on some of the questions we had, or?
I love that we're getting such smart questions that mean people are thinking in the right way about marketing. So I'm very pleased to see that in our ecosystem. I think the message is getting through that marketing is really an engine of business growth and not just stuff that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Mic drop on that one. You guys, thank you so much. Definitely keep sending us questions, sending us comments, submitting. We're here for you. We do love to do this, but it's because it's helping to prosper you, your business, and your personal goals. So we'll see you next time. Onward and upward.